caused a divide with the family, because when he made the allegation, a lot of the family members didn't want to believe him. They didn't want to believe his mom. Even though his mom had suspicions herself, she wanted to make sure that her son understood that she was there with him. So she was trying to do everything that she could to figure out what was going on. She wanted him to believe that she supported him, and she did. But it was hard for her to accept what was happening, because this is somebody that had been there for her in her life. You know, her family member had been there for her when things weren't going right between Max Spook and his father and all this and that, right? So it was hard for her to understand, you know, and plus she grew up with her relative, and it was hard for her to understand how she could even do something like this, right? And it turns out that she didn't do anything. Max Spook came clean to the police and told them what happened, what actually happened, right? So here's the thing. Now Max Spook is getting his therapy. He's about to graduate from high school. He's doing pretty good. But because he came clean, his daddy took that and ran with it. Instead of supporting him, his daddy called him a liar, told him that he should burn in hell. All of these different types of things that made Max Spook even more withdrawn from the world and not believing that he was worthy of anything, right? Made him feel bad, right? Now let me explain something to y'all. Like, I learned a long time ago, man, that even when a person is wrong, right? Listen to me. And this is a hard lesson to learn. This is a hard lesson to live. You feel what I'm saying? When a person is wrong about something, the worst thing we can do, and I had to learn this, right? I was watching things play out with a lot of the guys that I was over back in the day and all this and that. And I saw some things happening. When you ostracize somebody, when you push them away, you're pushing them closer and closer to what you believe they are. Worthless, liars, this, that, and the third. When you pull them closer to you with compassion and understanding, and that is hard to do, especially when they've lied to you, manipulated, and used you, and all of these different type of things. When you pull them closer to you, you become an example to them of what and how they should live, right? Doesn't mean they're going to change overnight. They didn't become those types of people that would lie and mislead and do all of these types of things overnight, and they're not going to change that behavior overnight. That's not the point of being an example for somebody, y'all. It's just not. When you're being an example to somebody, you're going to be disappointed more than you're going to be happy if you look at it the wrong way, right? The right way to look at things like that is that you imagine yourself as the seed, and that's it. You are only the seed. You cannot make anything grow, right? The Most High has to sprinkle it with water and tap that thing. You understand? And make it grow. You be the best example of how a person should act as you can, based on your own experiences. So when his father pushed Max Spook away, made him a worse type of individual, because the lens that he developed was this. The fact that he wanted his father's attention never went away. That never changed. He wanted, he needed, he desired his father's attention. And when his father pushed him away, he wanted it more. Ain't that something? The worse off his father treated him, the more he wanted his attention. He just kept thinking in his mind, if I just do this, or if I just do that. Come on now, I'm gonna give y'all some examples, all right? Men and women. Now y'all listen to me. When situations are going down and you might be in a toxic relationship, right? A man do all kinds of crazy stuff to get the woman's attention, and that goes for the woman too now. It'll be situations where you'll do some things that most people wouldn't even dream of doing just to get that other person's attention because you want them. And the more they push you away, the more they mistreat you, the more they dog you out, the more they disrespect you, you want them more and more and more until you reach your breaking point. And the breaking point is different for everybody in different situations, right? But see, in this situation, Max Spook's breaking point didn't occur right then and there. It didn't. See, he kept trying. But see, his behavior kept becoming more and more erratic, more and more violent, more and more unpredictable, because he thought that if he just do something big enough, loud enough, that his father would look at him and see him for who he is, right? His son. So guess what Max Spook did? Max Spook, him and one of his friends was a stick-up kid, you know what I'm saying? He got with one of his friends, man, and they went out. They found him somebody that had that bag, had that money. They followed him for 3 days, hawked him down, making sure they knew everywhere that they went, everywhere that he hung out, where they thought he might be hiding his money, where they thought he might be hiding that bag, all of that kind of stuff. They were on him. And after 3 days, they thought they had figured it all out. But see, this dude was way, way more sophisticated than they gave him credit for. He always assumed that somebody was watching him. Always assumed that, so he would take his time and deliberately take them off course. Spin them around, you know what I'm saying, like a ball of yarn, right? Because if somebody were watching, he wanted them to always miss. So he was patient in his deception. He played the long game. So when they hit him, he ain't had nothing. He was empty-handed. And it pissed them off. They had spent all this time and all this effort a few weeks before graduation. A few weeks before graduating high school. They had spent all of this time following him, figuring it out, and they thought they had it. And when they got him, he didn't have a thing. Right? So they ended up in a fight. A nasty fight. And Max Spook had a butcher on him. Now they're on the streets now, so this is a real knife. Lock blade. And he stabbed him right in his kidney. Dude dropped. They got to keep in mind, dude wasn't that much older than him. He was out of high school, but they knew him. He stabbed him in his kidney. When dude dropped down to his knees, he told him, he said, "You better tell me where it's at. I'm going to kill you." He looked up at Max Spook. He told him, "Please, man, please don't." He said, "Where is it at?" So dude told him where it was at. Now keep in mind, dude leaking. He bleeding. So they make him get in the car and go to this spot, and they get all the bread. They get it all. And then they push him out the car and throw him out the car. Which I'm glad they did. Because somebody that was driving by about 30, 40 minutes later, less than an hour later, they found him. He was unconscious, bleeding out. But they got him to the hospital in some kind of way. After all that time out there by himself bleeding, they brought him back. And it took another few days before he could even speak. And his memory was cloudy. And over time, after another week or so, he was able to tell the police what happened. And he told them. And they immediately went and arrested Max Spook and his partner for attempted murder. Robbery. Oh yeah. This dude lost his kidney. Fortunately for him, he was young, he was in good shape, so he bounced back. So when Max Spook was in the county, the therapist that was there at the time when he confessed to being not truthful about the molestation situation and all this and that, came to talk to him. And when she was down there talking to him, she said, "What happened? She already had an idea in her mind, right? Max Spook said, he said, "I don't know." He said, "I just kept doing stuff over and over and over. I just don't know." And a lot of people don't know why they act out like that. And she told him, she said, "It was the same problem that you had when you made up the lie." She was a little bit more aggressive with him, but she was trying to be matter of fact, not hurtful, right? She wasn't trying to be hurtful, she was trying to be matter of fact. And all the things that had happened to Max Spook had pushed him in a corner because half of his family had ostracized him. He more focused on them. His dad didn't want nothing to do with him. He more focused on him. He didn't focus on his mom pouring out all kind of love and affection and commitment to him. He didn't focus on the other part of the family that was trying to understand him and help him. He was focused on the ones that didn't want nothing to do with him. And she told him, you got to reprioritize how you see yourself. She said, people in life are not going to like everything that you do, not going to agree with everything that you do, and you have had some tough breaks, but there are no excuses for what you did. And see, that was a hard pill for Max Spook to follow, and he didn't want for him to swallow it. He didn't want to swallow it right then. So he rejected what she was saying, and he told her to leave and don't come back. He didn't want to talk to her no more. And she said, I'm going to leave, but I'm coming back. She said, you in custody now. You don't even get to decide who comes to visit you anymore. You feel what I'm saying? You've given that all away. She said, I'll be back, but you don't have to talk to me. And he said, well, I ain't got nothing to say. She'd heard that before. But she was not going to be the person to walk away from him. She was going to keep coming because she wanted to help him. And she came back every week. Partly because the courts ordered her to, because they knew the situation. The people in that town, the law enforcement, they knew the situation. They knew this boy was struggling, and they knew that his daddy was a drug dealer. And they knew why he was acting out, but this particular place, they had grown tired of losing the younger generation to situations like that because of the dad not being involved. So they were trying to fill that gap and figure out what they could do. So when she kept coming back over and over, the weeks after weeks, to talk to him, he would slowly start to warm up to her. But by the time he started warming up to her, it was time to pay the piper. And when he went to court, they popped him down and gave him 12. He got off easy, ladies and gentlemen, with a 12 at 85. They let him plead out because when the victim of his crime came, he knew him. And when all the information got laid out as to, what they did lay out in the courtroom and all this and that, with the pre-sentencing report. The pre-sentencing report is basically what they do after you go to trial and get found guilty, or right before when you plead guilty, before you get sentenced. They want to know everything about your background and all this and that. So Max Spook's lawyer went and talked to his victim, and told him, he's been going through a lot, and he went through a lot. And even though dude was just a few years older than Max Spook, it got him. It hit him. It hit him in his heart. And he said, man, I don't want to see him gone for the rest of his life. I don't want to see him gone for that long. You know what I'm saying? So he told him that the DA would be willing to give him 12 years if you wouldn't object to it and all this and that. So the dude was like, man, I'll go down to the DA's office with you. And that's how Max Spook ended up getting these 12 years. So they were still trying to help him. So when he got there and he got the 12 years and all this and that, and the judge was talking to him, right before he gave him the 12 years, he told him, he said, look, he said, you still got a chance in life. It's not over, but you got to pay for what you did. But you got another opportunity after you get out. Go in there, do what you need to do, come up out of there a better person. Max Spook, that wasn't what he was listening to. He wasn't listening to that, because when he came into the system, he wasn't one of the guys. When he got to the first penitentiary he got to, he gravitated toward the business, right? Gravitated toward the business because he ran into this individual that was already one of the guys, and he seen it, right? And back in the day, you look for different things, right? Especially when, you're trying to build the numbers up, right? So his blesser, the guy that ended up being his blesser, extended an opportunity for him to become one of the folks. And he did, and that's how he became Max Spook. A couple of years went by while he was at that institution, and then he got transferred to the institution where I was at. And then we started kicking it, I kick it with the younger ones and talk to them and try to, make them feel a certain way about different types of things and all this and that, right? So once we got cool enough to the point to where he felt like he could trust me, he started opening up to me. And he was telling me all the different things that he had been through in his life. And at that particular time, I was going through some things with both of my sons. They was in the streets and doing different types of things. And it made me really reflect on my absence in their life and how it was affecting them, And, we would talk from time to time. And once he started to tell me all the different things that happened in his life, I started to understand, how a lot of people just say stuff trying to get attention. See, but you got a lot of people, man, stuff to be happening to them be factual, on point. So I asked Max Spook, I said, why did you make that up though? And he was honest. He said, man, I don't even know, Joe T. I don't even know why I said that. But I just didn't want, you know what I'm saying, nobody else to walk away from it. Like my daddy did. He said, man, I ain't never do nothing for him to treat me like that. He said, I ain't even asked to be born. And then he just walked away like I didn't exist. And he said, I tried to do everything that I could to make him see me. And he treated me like I just didn't exist. And when I told him what happened to me, when I told him the lie that I had been telling, I knew that he was there. And I wanted to stick to it, but I couldn't stick to it. He said, I said, well, why did you, do that after your mom? Could you see that your mom was struggling? He said, yeah, I could see mama was struggling bad with it, but he said, I know my mama loved me. Now think about what I just said, John. He knew that his mom loved him. Wasn't no issue in that at all. So he felt as though his mom could take it. He felt as though she could take it, she could handle it. Because to him, it was just a short-term thing. It was almost like somebody to go and rob somebody to get the rent money or get some money to go to a sporting event or a concert or whatever the case may be, and then, think everything is going to be straight. This was a short-term lie with lifetime implications, though. He couldn't see that. His brain, at that particular time when he was a juvenile, he couldn't factor in all of the things that could happen. And even if he did, it didn't matter, because what he wanted more than being responsible was the attention of somebody that wasn't mature enough to understand how valuable and how much of a gift he was to the world. Think about that. So when you see these kids out there doing all these things, right? And man, trust me, I know it's hard. Believe me. I talk to my nephew all the time. As much as I can. Let me put it that way. And it's hard. Because sometimes you don't know what to say. You don't know how to say it. And what I would say is that sometimes, man, just don't say nothing. Just listen. Just listen. But don't walk away from them. Because when you walk away with all of this old, well, you don't want to behave, you're going to jail, which is all true. All of that's true. That's not going to get them where they need to be. That's not going to heal them. You want to try to heal them. And if you can't heal them, don't hurt them. Don't hurt them. This is not TV. This is not the Cosby Show where, Bill come out and say something and everything will be straight. It's not that. It's layers to this stuff, man. And sometimes those layers lead to people getting hurt. Those layers lead to people being lied to. Those layers sometimes end up worse than that. But what makes it worse is that we walk away. People say, well, that's tough love. We got to do something. We got to stop standing for all this and that. And I'm like, you're right. We have to do something. We have to do something. And for me, I'm not saying this is for everybody. I want you to remember that more times than not, when you're trying to be the best example of how a person should act, you're going to be disappointed more than you're going to be excited about what they do or happy about what they do. But see, I don't look at it like a disappointment, because I look at it as a long game. It's a journey. And you got to give people time to get there. And they all are not going to get there at the same time. I didn't. Look how long it took for me. Remember that, y'all. Remember, think about how y'all look at me now. Once upon a time, I was terrible. And that's what I'm going to leave you with, right? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I'm getting so tired.